to
Hello.
talk enough right now.
It's been a while.
Just a little bit. Um, Today we're going to talk about your lifestyle, what kind of things you do to be healthy, if you make exercise, or if you have
Hmm.
like in the morning some eating habits and stuff.
Okay.
It feels actually like going through that process. So tell me, how's your lifestyle?
So I would say generally my lifestyle compared to others, like my other friends, is relatively healthy. I would say the hardest part for me is eating the food. So like in college, you know how it is. Sometimes you just don't have the time to like make food. So either you go out and we order or not order food, but we go out and get fast food, which is usually like never healthy. Or like just like today, I came back from the library doing my project and I put in three things of ramen noodle. And so like it's like the hardest part about my healthy lifestyle is eating right. There's actually a a moment in time where I went vegetarian for like 3 weeks, and after like that time, I was just like, I need to eat meat. So it's hard to do. It's hard because everything it's true. Like everything you or all the unhealthy food is tastes really good, and usually all the healthy food doesn't taste good. So it's just like balancing all that out. But yeah, that's the hardest part. Generally, like my lifestyle has always been healthy. Like from the time, literally, like from the time I could walk, I played sports. So like when I was 5 years old, I started playing baseball, and then a couple years after that, I played baseball and basketball. And then going into high school, I stopped playing baseball. Or I'm sorry, m- rewind a little bit. And I've always played football as well. So there's a moment in time where I played three sports. Um, and my mom would always cook for us. So like living at home, I always ate healthy as well. Like always drank water, and I never really drank like carbonated beverages. Um, and then in high school, especially because I ran track, I wasn't allowed to drink any Coke or Sprite or anything. I only could drink water. And like my lifestyle then was literally wake up at 6:30, go to school for 8 hours, and then go to football practice for like 3.5 hours, and then I'd get home around like 6:30 or 7, eat dinner, do my homework, go to bed, repeat. And so like it was really rigorous and like kind of stressful, but like it was like extremely healthy and like on schedule. But the difference now is that I'm really not on as tight of a schedule. So like for example, like Monday and Wednesday, I don't have class until 2. So like Sunday and Tuesday, like I'll stay up super late because I know I don't have to wake up until 2. And it's like it's bad, but like I get all of my work done or whatever, but like I'll literally stay up until like 3 and then like wake up at 12 on Monday and Wednesday and kind of do my morning routine and then go to class. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have class at 11. So I have to wake up early, do my whole routine and et cetera, et cetera. So like now, like my lifestyle, uh, I don't eat as well as I should, and I don't manage my time as well as I should. It's not like as consistent, but I would say that I'm extremely active. So like my first semester, or this is the first semester, but usually like before school starts, I used to go to the gym every day. Me and my roommate would go to the gym, and we'd probably spend about an hour there every day, 5 times a week. But now, since I have school and frisbee, ultimate frisbee is my main source of exercise. Um, so we have practice Monday, Tuesday, Thursday from 6 to 8. So it's 6 hours a week that I'm usually just like running around. Um, like I've never had like a health problem. Actually, I do, but I'll talk about that later. But I never had like a weight problem or like like an unhealthy thing to worry about.
So you like never maybe never broke a bone
Mm-mm.
or
Knock on wood, never broke a bone.
uh, you're really lucky.
I would say though that when I did play football, and mind you that my dad was the coach, so like it was even more like I was even more self-conscious about getting hurt because I didn't want to like come off as like a wimpy kid or whatever. I'm pretty sure like literally like looking at my fingers and like I'm pretty sure I've broken a couple fingers and just like played through it and like never got them like fixed. Because there was moments where I'd get my fingers like stuck in between like face masks, like people would like collide on my hand and it would hurt really bad, but I would have to stay. Like I wanted to stay in. I didn't want to take a play off. But the worst I've ever gotten hurt was actually last year playing ultimate frisbee, and I was running really fast, and then I stopped all of a sudden, and I sprained my ankle so bad, like it was the worst pain that I can think of too. And so I was out for like a month. I couldn't do anything, but that's about it.
So
Excuse me.
how long have you been playing ultimate frisbee?
So I always used to play it before I even knew it was like a sanctioned sport. Me and my family always used to play it in our backyard, but that was just like me and my family and my cousins and like their friends. We would all come over and go into our backyard, and we had this huge backyard or back pasture, and we would literally just like run around and throw the frisbee and until like somebody scored. There was no organization at all. But and then I got into college, and my freshman year, I remember the first time I ever went to the gym, I saw what would end up being my coach and my two captains, and they're all the age I'm at now. They're like 21, 22. And I walked up to them because I saw one. He had his frisbee and he was flicking it up like that and was like rotating or whatever. And I was like, this dude's cool. Like he knows how to play frisbees. So I walked up to them and I was like, hey, do you guys play frisbee? And they all kind of like laughed and looked at each other. They're like, yeah, we're on the club team. You should like totally come out one day. And so like the next day I came out to practice and had no idea what I was doing. I thought I was good at frisbee. Like, could not throw a frisbee to save my life when I watched these guys throw the frisbee. The only thing I had is that I was fast. That's like I'm wearing my track shirt. Like I ran track for 4 years, so like they knew I was fast. I knew I was fast, and all they had me do was like run down the field, and they would throw me like a huge pass, and I'd go and run and catch it. But so this is my fourth year playing frisbee. Our preseason is just now ending, but I'm actually the defensive captain
Okay,
for our team, and like my frisbee skills have gone up exponentially.
nice. That's really nice.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting.
Um, well, tell me maybe about some medical insurance in case you know sprain an ankle or break a bone. Uh, does the university have something like that?
Okay, so actually, I can talk a lot about this because when I was in seventh grade, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder or autoimmune disease. It's called Crohn's disease. Um, you might some similar diseases like irritable bowel syndrome or like IBS or an IBD, irritable bowel disease, but it pretty much means that I'll just tell you the story. So like in seventh grade, I got like super skinny, and I've always been like kind of skinny. I've always had a fast metabolism, but in seventh grade, I got very sick and skinny, and it got to the point where my joints got so inflamed or so swollen that I couldn't move. I couldn't move my fingers. I couldn't move my elbows, like my knees, like all my joints locked up. And my weight dropped down to like 90 pounds. And so like I was like very like it's called gaunt. I was very gaunt looking, just super skinny and emaciated. It's like a very sad story, but like all my friends like didn't know what was going on. Like my parents didn't know what was happening, and so I kept on having to go to the hospital. And after about a couple months of them trying to figure out and doing blood work and stuff, they diagnosed me with Crohn's. And what that means is that it's an autoimmune disorder. So my body attacks the food, or my body was attacking the food I ate. So I was literally like malnutritioned. It
Okay.
was like I hadn't eaten anything in like a month. And so um now there's actually I'm pretty familiar with insurance. Every 2 weeks I had a medication. I've been on three medications. The first one was called prednisone, and that's just the anti-inflammatory. So what that did is that took down all the inflammation in my joints, and it took away most of the inflammation in my stomach. And then they went in, they performed a colonoscopy, which is when they stick, oh, it was an endoscopy and colonoscopy,
Okay.
and they like stick a camera down, or a scope down my mouth and then up the other end. And they just look, yeah, well, I was asleep, don't worry, but they put me to sleep, and they did the endoscopies and colonoscopies, and they pretty much said that the medicine had reduced the inflammation enough to where they wouldn't have to do like an actual surgery.
Oh, okay.
And so after all the swelling went down, they put me on pretty much an anti, it's a immunosuppressant. I'm sorry. It's called an immunosuppressant, which is it suppresses your immune system. It weakens your immune system on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So while I'm more susceptible, or it's easier for me to get sick, which I really don't get sick that often because I'm healthy. My immune system is weaker than other people's immune system because it has to be. Otherwise, if my immune system is too strong, it'll attack my large intestine, or it'll attack the intestines when I eat food. And so the second and third medications are immunosuppressants. And so right now with health insurance and the school, I'm pretty sure I could go into the school and make it to where I don't even know, because I've never really cared. I've also just been I've not been proactive about it, but I could easily get like student disability services,
Okay.
and it would come with it like kind of benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are there's some weeks or some days where like I am very fatigued and like very tired. The thing about my disease is that it's very stress inducive. So if I
Oh,
get
okay.
if I get very stressed out, it's called a flare. It'll flare up and it'll kind of resurface the symptoms. So there's been, and especially like if like finals week, something that's very stressful comes up, it becomes even more hard for me to be able to.
I understand. Okay.
So yeah, so I've never really looked into the student services, but as far as health insurance goes, me and my parents, we've been through many health insurers, because if you have, it's just the way it works in America. If you have a disease or a disability, chances are that you'll be on an insurance for 6 to 8 months, or maybe even a year, before they really start making it hard for you to get the things you need to get. So,
Okay.
for example, when I switched from my second medication to my third medication, which is what I'm on now, and I can actually get up and show you, um, the insurance wasn't cooperating really well.
Okay.
So we had to switch over and find the best insurance for us. And so what it pretty much amounts to now is every 2 weeks, I have to take a self injection. It's kind of like someone who has diabetes and needs insulin,
Mm-hmm.
but it's every 2 weeks and it's self injected. So I just pretty much take. Give me a second, I'll show you.
Okay.
It's kind of cool. So it's in my fridge right now. I have to keep it refrigerated, but it's about every like 4 weeks I have to call this. They're called a Credo or something, but they deliver medicine.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, so it gets delivered to me, but it's like syringe,
Oh,
and
okay.
That's what's keeping me alive, my friend. This right here.
Oh,
Um, so like for example, the I don't know how much this medicine costs. For us, and the whole point of health insurance is that it costs us $10 every time I order it. It's $10. The but for comparison, um, the medicine, my second medication, which was like an IV, it was like you know how you get like if you're dehydrated and they take you to the hospital, they give you an IV of like water. I would get an IV of medicine. And while with insurance, it was only maybe a couple $100s. There's like it's called a copay. It's like you just pay a little bit amount of money to be able to see the doctor or get the medicine. While the medicine was only for my parents, they only had to pay a couple $100 per visit, which is still pretty expensive. The medicine itself, that bag of IV, like literally like 2 cups of medicine, was $9,000. Yeah. So, I mean, I probably went about 20 times, and that's about $200,000 of medicine that it costed. But the whole thing with health insurance is that if you're insured, which, you know, you pretty much have to be, um, to be able to get by, yeah, you'll be fine. What's scary though is that today they're actually passing. I think it got passed right now. It might have passed the Senate, but they're passing a tax bill. Trump's like pretty much Trump and his like the Republicans wrote up a tax bill, but I'm pretty sure there's like some parts in there that have to do with the healthcare or like health reform. And so what they'll do is the politicians they'll write this big bill like as thick as this notebook, like if not like maybe even thicker. They'll write this huge bill and they'll just call it this is the tax reform, this is our tax bill. But what they'll do is in you know maybe like every few dozen pages they'll have one page that they'll pretty much sneak in something that they don't want people to know about. And so I think some parts of this tax bill are concerns like healthcare. And what President Trump is trying to do is he's pretty much trying to take away a lot of people's healthcare. He's trying to take away Obamacare, is what you might have heard it by. It's
yeah,
called affordable healthcare.
yeah,
It's
healthcare. I heard
Obamacare.
before.
So hold on, let me put this back in the
Yeah, yeah.
fridge.
So it doesn't.
Okay. So right now, what Obamacare does is it lets me stay on my parents' insurance until I'm 28. Um, and so what could happen, and it's not going to happen, like it wouldn't happen. But like what could happen is if there was a case in which that was taken away, I would have to find my own insurance. I wouldn't be on my parents' insurance anymore, so I would have to be paying my own health insurance, and so that would happen. The premiums would increase, which means things like that copay. Remember how I said it only costs like $10 for me to get that medicine? That could triple, so it could be like $30, which still isn't that much money, but as a college person who needs his medicine,
You're
you know,
providing your
twice a
medicine.
month. Yeah, exactly. It's like $60 a month I'm spending on literally to stay alive. So a lot of people are upset about it. But for now, I've been very fortunate to be on my parents' insurance, so I've never had to worry about money in terms of my illness. So yeah, that's pretty much where it's at right now, and hopefully it stays that way.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
I was thinking if you want to travel abroad, uh, how can you do it with your medicine? Medicine
Yeah,
yeah.
that's one of the things I used to think about a lot is I've always wanted to travel, but when you know, not so much when I got diagnosed, but several years after when I realized how I wanted to travel, I was like, well, how am I gonna travel if every 2 weeks I have to inject? So an example is today's the second, right? So in 17 days I leave for India. I'm gonna go travel to India for 3 weeks. And so what I'll probably end up having to do is there's one dose left in that, and I take it in 3 days. So I can actually figure this out right now, December 5th. So, so my next injection after I inject in 3 days is gonna be literally it's gonna be the day I leave, the 19th, and then I'll have to inject again the like January 3rd or something. So what I'll have to do is I'll just have to order my medicine again, put it in a bag, and then from I'll actually have to go into the airport and see if they have any like special carrying containers. But probably what I'll end up doing is um I'll put the medicine in my carry-on bag in like a container with like ice packs because I have to keep
Yeah.
it cold. Yeah, and then I'll just like put it in, I guess, the refrigerator on the airplane or something, or if they have anything else, put it in there. It's not that the warning on it says is like, I think after you take it out and it comes to room temperature, it has 14 days until the medicine starts losing its effect.
Okay.
So even then, like even if I like take it out, like I could 13 days later take it and it would still be just as effective. But knowing my mom, and she's probably just gonna be freaking out about it, so she's gonna make sure that everything's figured out.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's
too worried about it.
well, at least you have a solution to that.
Hmm.
Um,
For sure.
Now, tell me about your childhood.
Okay.
Like the best memory you can remember about your childhood,
Oh man.
or maybe some plays you used to like a lot, or some games or movies or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so uh you know that I have a big family, and so as a child, when I was a kid growing up, I was always surrounded by my brothers and my little siblings as well. So I've always had some of my fondest memories, or some of my best memories have been outside, playing with my family, um, like playing games or whatever. And uh, one distinct memory I have is we would play. Me and my family would always play paintball. We'd go out into the woods
Oh,
and play
nice.
paintball.
Oh, that's awesome. It's
Yeah, lots
really,
of
really
fun.
awesome.
And I remember that it was kind of like a free for all. And my dad has a bald head, so like no
Okay.
hair, and he has his like mask on. But I sneak up on him, and I'm probably about like 15, 20 yards away, and I see his bald head, and I shoot him in the back of the head with a
Oh,
paintball. And so like it hits skin, and he like just screams, and it's like I thought like I was in trouble, but like that's the point of the game, is to shoot like whoever you see.
yeah.
And I thought, I don't know, it was so much fun. It was so funny. That's like all I really remember from that memory. It like fogs out after that. Um, what else? So also we have family that lives in Pennsylvania. Actually, just recently my cousin got married. I couldn't make it to the wedding, but my mom and brother went up there. Anyways, when I was little, I have a very fond memory of one summer. I remember for the longest time, my mom was trying to get them to come down to Georgia and visit. And so one summer, over like the course of a week, they came over, and I remember that my mom had designed, it was like a summer Olympics, they
Okay.
called it a well maker Olympics. And I remember one of my favorite games that I ever played with my family, and I like literally like 6 months ago I played it with my friends again because it's so much fun. It's called Manhunt.
Okay.
It's it's like hide and seek, but it's in the dark and it's outside, so it's like yeah,
That sounds. Oh,
it's so much fun. Yeah. And so like I remember I was on my oldest brother's team. His name is Corey. And I remember my cousin Brienne was on my team as well, and I remember my brother Josh was on the other team, and he was chasing us. And I was like probably 6 or 7 years old, so I was so little, and I just remember not being able to run fast enough, and I started freaking out. And so Corey, who was probably like 17 or 18 at the time, like picked me up and threw me over his shoulder and was running full speed with me on his shoulder, and I was like, this is crazy. Like he's so strong. Like how can he do this? And I don't know. That's another memory I had. But I would say overall, some of the best memories I probably had was just playing football with my friends and with my dad coaching. And I remember every single game, if it was football or baseball, my pawpaw, we call him pawpaw, but my grandfather, he would be on the sideline, or he'd be, in the stands. He would never be sitting in the stands, but he'd always be like on the outside of the fence in his like foldable chair.
Okay.
He's like this. If you have to imagine my grandpa, just imagine this big Southern, like big and fat and Southern. He has his NASCAR hat on, and he has these sunglasses on. He's got a white goatee, and he's just like the quietest man you'll ever hear. But he's so funny and so cool. But he'd always be sitting outside of the stadium, just watching me play football. And I remember always going up to him and telling him thanks for coming, and he always tell me like what a great job I did, or blah 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 blah. But I would say like my football games and like game day was always like probably the highlight of my childhood. Before every football game, until I got to high school, but from elementary to middle school, before every single football game on Saturday morning at around 8 o'clock, I'd go into my bathroom and I'd throw up because I get so nervous. I was too, yeah.
I actually, when I'm nervous, I can't sleep. I actually, when I have tests
Hmm.
or whatever, and I just don't feel prepared for it, I just don't sleep. The last night before that, I just don't sleep. I can't sleep until I
Hmm.
just make the test or whatever, and once I finish, all the sleep is coming to me. So
You get tired. Yeah.
I'm really tired.
It's been a while since I've taken. I mean, unless it's a Spanish test, but like you can't cram for a Spanish test. Either you know it or you don't. But I was the same way. There was some nights where I just wouldn't even sleep, and I would take a test and then crash like as soon as I got home. But I'm trying to think of maybe something else in my childhood that
Well, was there any kind of TV show or movies that you used to watch?
SpongeBob,
SpongeBob?
SpongeBob.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, every day,
I know that one.
every day it was SpongeBob. I watched. It was mostly Nickelodeon. I would watch SpongeBob. I watched Fairly Odd Parents with Timmy Turner, Jimmy Neutron.
Oh, Jimmy Neutron. Oh, that was. I like that show. I really like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was cool. There's more. There's totally more, but I can't think of any right now. It was mostly SpongeBob though. I could quote like every single episode verbatim.
About movies, maybe have you ever seen, like the Lord of the Rings or Star Wars?
Oh, I know Lord of the Rings, my friend. I know it. I know everything there is to know about Lord of the Rings. In fact, I don't know if you heard, but Amazon just bought out the rights to produce a Lord of the Rings a TV series, kind of like Game of Thrones, but it's a TV. It's going to be a TV show now, Lord of the Rings. Let me see, and I don't want to give you the wrong amount, but I'm pretty sure they bought it out for $200 million. Amazon buys Lord. Yeah, it's supposed to be the biggest and expensive move ever. And as far as TV shows go, yeah, but it's supposed to be like what after like Game of Thrones is said and done, that'll probably be like the next
Yeah.
big TV show. and Americans love their TV shows. It's
Yeah,
I've never
we love it too.
yeah I'm sure it's like everywhere. I've never been. I don't like some like my dad. I guess just because he gets home from work and he's tired, and if he's not coaching football, like he'll always have a TV show that he's watching on Netflix or something. But for me, like the only TV I watch is Game of Thrones. So like literally like 3 months out of the year I'll watch TV, and then after that it's the only time I'm in front of a screen is if I'm doing homework or playing a video game.
So video games. What kind of video games do you play, or what video games are you playing now?
So I would say I'll just start from the beginning, and we're approaching 30 minutes, so I'll talk about this, and then
Okay, okay, okay.
we'll transition into me asking you. But I would say in the beginning, it all started with my brothers. I remember my brothers got World of Warcraft for Christmas, and as a kid who's still like in the height of his imagination, like everything, it's like looking back. I'm not gonna even say that, but I'm just saying like. I was in the height of my like everything was fascinating, like any new thing was cool. And I remember I would just sit down, like right behind my, like I'd just be right here sitting down behind my brothers, watching them play World of Warcraft, and like it was the greatest thing in the world. And so after my parents never let me play it until I was older, and so when I was finally old enough, so probably like maybe around 10 or 11 or 12 years old, I started playing it, and that's kind of where it started. That's I guess that's where my taste began with video games. So it's always been fantasy based or like medieval. Um, my brother Corey got really into StarCraft, but I never really got into StarCraft because I didn't like future or science fiction. So for me, it's always been World of Warcraft, and then I played a lot of Warcraft, which is real time strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like Civilization, if you've ever played that or if you've ever
Or
seen Civilization.
Age of Empires.
Yeah, exactly. So you just build. I had a lot of fun, and what am I trying to say? Uh, what like it's funny because like there's this kind of stigma about video games and it like wasting your time or whatever, but I've gotten so much of my like I wouldn't say overall knowledge, but like so much of my quick thinking and like the reason I can type so fast and like the reason I'm so quick on my feet is because I've always played video games and that requires nothing but
Instant.
like quick thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're constantly. It's almost like it's not reading a book, but it's kind of the same thing as reading a book. You're constantly engaging. You're constantly critically thinking.
Yeah.
Um,
It's actually like like you feel like each story is like immersive. When
yeah,
you play,
and
it feels immersive.
yeah, so that's like what I think, and that's what's so attractive about video games is that you have this physical video game that you play and that you enjoy, but there's also this huge backstory that is, like people like you could write books about it, and some of these the World of Warcraft game was based off books, so it naturally had a story. But as the video game progressed, so did the storyline, and so now it's funny we're talking about this. Is yesterday um, my friend who's like he has an equal passion of video games as me.
Mm-hmm.
He walked in, and it's funny because the title was in Spanish because I think it was kind of leaked, but it said El fin de Sargeras, which is the end of Sargeras, and Sargeras is the last boss in World of Warcraft. He's like the ultimate evil,
Oh, okay, okay.
and he like throws it down on the ground because I think I was like laying down on the floor petting my dog Molly or whatever, and he throws it on the ground. And he's like, "All right, now it's like this is it. Like this is what we've been waiting for." And I'm like I don't know if I can do this. Like, and so I watched the video, and at the end, I was just like that's just like reminiscing about all the years and all the hours I played, and it's like led up to that, and it was it's like almost emotional. It's like it's all of this time you spent, and then like this is how the story ends.
feel
But
involved with the story, with the video games, with the characters, with the protagonist of the story.
hmm
It's
yeah,
really
engaging,
engaging. Yeah.
engaging. Yeah, it's extremely engaging. It's you. I mean, you're there with them. You're there fighting with them. You know, you're literally helping them do what they want for like quests or whatever. And so I would say that, yeah, video games have given me a very, I guess, a very high, or the video games I've played have given me a very high expectation of anything else I play, or like if any. So I'm an English major. Um, like what I want to do for my like for my own self, like I'll have a job or whatever, but for my own self, I am writing a book that's science fiction fantasy. And I know I told you this, but one of the things that I'm glad is that I've put so much time in these video games and these stories that I have this very high. I know what it needs to be, and I know the expectation that other people are going to have if I want it to be as good as these stories, because these are all based off stories. And so I'm happy that I've been in this situation where I can, spend this time playing these games, because it's kind of it's translating right now into the things I'm working on. And, hopefully one day if I write this story, or I say if, when, cuando I write this story, hopefully somebody picks it up and they say, hey, let's make this into a video game,
Oh,
or
that will
let's
be awesome.
make it into a TV show. And I'm like, oh, trust me, I've been planning on this for a while. But yeah, that's the effect, I guess, if that's the question you're looking for. That the effect it's had on me is, it's been mostly positive. There's moments where you're kind of self-conscious. Like, I remember the first time my girlfriend came over, Tomby, and I was playing World of Warcraft. It was actually a private server, so it was an old expansion. And the first time she came in, and like, I felt like she just like walked in on me, like doing something I shouldn't be doing, or just like I was like cheating on her or something. But I was just on my computer playing this game. And yeah, she was like, "Oh, she's like, what is?" She's from India, like it's completely different. And she was like, "What is that? Like, what are you playing?" It's like, "Oh, it's a game, just a game." But it's funny. It's
Yeah.
definitely something different.
So I think we're kind of done with the English part. I'm going to
Okay.
stop the